Hello and welcome to Board Game Gumbo. Today we're unboxing the Buffy the Vampire Slayer expansion to Unmatched. Unmatched is a skirmish game for either 2 players or 4 players playing in teams. Plays in about 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's in this expansion. Unmatched is made by Restoration Games. They came out with their first copy in 2019 and they've been doing expansions ever since, adding characters from different worlds, but all of them can actually be combined together. So here is our rule book. We'll talk a little bit about the rules, but when I'm speaking about the rules, I'm only going to be speaking about the 2-player rules. The team rules I'm a lot less familiar with, so I'll leave those for you to figure out on your own, but I will show you in the back here. They should have an explanation for it. Here's all the new things that are new to this set. Obviously, sidekicks aren't new, but they've got some new tiles. They got a new blind boost, which is interesting. And then we've got some shadow tokens over here that Spike starts with. So here are the team play rules if you're interested. I'll just leave it there for a second. You can pause and read those for yourself. So first of all, we have our health dials and our sidekick dials. So basically the way these work is each player is going to have a health dial. So if you're playing as Angel here, you'll assemble this dial and it'll just keep track of your health total. The objective of the game is to knock your opponent's hero to 0 health. That's essentially all you're trying to do. It's pretty straightforward. If they do have a sidekick, you can do damage to the sidekick and knock them out of the fight. Again, this Angel will have a sidekick of Faith, and she'll start at 8 health. So you can do enough damage to knock her out as well. But even if you don't do any damage to her, you're going to win if you knock out Angel. So the sidekick is there to help the hero, but ultimately it's the hero that determines who wins. So more dials here, more tokens. Here's Spike's shadow tokens. It looks like all of them start with sidekicks in this box, which is, I think, the first time that's happened. So you can buy and play this game as a standalone game, just playing the 4 characters against each other, either in 1v1 or 2v2 in team mode, but you can also mix and match with the other sets. Each of these big expansions comes with a playboard, which you can now incorporate and use in your other sets. So here's the playboard for Buffy. Doesn't look like there's anything new there. It is double-sided, so it just gives you another option. Again, I don't see any new mechanics on these. The different color for these zones, there's basically 2 ways to attack. There's melee attacks where you have to be adjacent. So you have to have one of these connecting bars between the 2 locations to be able to attack. And then there's ranged attacks. And the way ranged attacks work is you can attack anybody that's in the same zone as you are, zones being colors. So if my character is all the way up here and they have a ranged attack, they can actually attack somebody who's down here because it shares that zone color. So that's what the different color zones mean there. And then finally, we have our figures and our cards. The figures in these sets have actually been really pretty impressive. Just in their quality, but also this wash that they go ahead and put on them right away. So even if you don't paint them, they still look nice just right out of the box. His sword's got a little bend to it, but that's not uncommon with plastic minis and really easy to fix. They also have these removable bases here just to make it a little easier to see who's who on the board. So there's the Spike. I don't know a ton about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's Buffy herself, though. All I really know is from the movie with Luke Perry. And that must be Either that's Angel or Spike. That's got to be Spike. And then this over here must be Angel. So here are our psychic tokens. As I said, each hero seems to have a psychic in this one, which I think is the first time that's happened. But essentially these tokens will go on the board as well, and they'll move with your hero when you choose to. Buffy has a choice of 2 sidekicks, so they're actually a different person on the different sides of the token. So little connectors for our health wheels. And then the final thing, which is kind of the big part of the game, is the cards. So what I like about Unmatched, and I think one of the reasons why it's been so popular, is because it's really easy to get into. It's a skirmish game, and the rules are pretty simple. You're just trying to knock out your opponent's hero. But there's no deck building. There's none of that. So whenever you play, you're just going to pick a hero and you're going to get this set of cards, which is always the same. If you're playing Spike, Spike always has the same cards. A couple things on the cards here. It tells you obviously what hero you're playing, what type of attack they have, whether it's melee or ranged. Spike and also his sidekick only have melee attacks, which means they have to be adjacent. Their starting health, which also is indicated on the dial. You can't go above your starting health, so always the highest number is your starting health. And then your movement, which is something you get automatically in your turn. And then each hero also has a special ability. Spike's being at the start of your turn, you can place a shadow token in any space adjacent to Spike or Drusilla. And then most likely his cards are going to allow you to manipulate those shadows or possibly move between them, like with the Invisible Man. On the back of this card, you're going to get a little cheat sheet and tells you what you can do on your turn. You have to take 2 actions. You can take 2 different actions, or you can take the same attack action twice. You always have to draw a card if it tells you to draw a card. And then one of the reasons you have to draw is because your deck doesn't reshuffle when it's empty. So you'll have your deck on the side of the table as you play, and then as you play cards, they'll go into a discard pile. If you ever get to a point where you have no cards left in your deck to draw, every time you draw a card, you take 2 points of damage, you and your sidekick, which is obviously a pretty considerable amount of damage. So controlling your deck is part of that, and that's why drawing is always mandatory. If you take the maneuver action, you have to draw, and then you can move your fighters, which is optional. Again, your movement is listed on the front of your card. And then you can always discard a card to boost. Every card has a boost value, which is this number here. You can use it to boost your movement, and you can also sometimes use it to boost your attack. Scheme is just playing a card, and then attack is a competition between you and your opponent, which we'll talk a little bit about when we get into the actual cards. And at the end of your turn, you discard down to 7 cards. So here is his deck in general. And I'm going to go through these so you can see if you're interested in them in particular. Go ahead and pause. But we'll talk a little bit about how the cards work as well. So there are multiple copies of most of these cards. These are attack cards. They're color coded, so red, but also they have the symbol on it just in case you have people playing who have colorblind issues. And again, the boost bonus is listed as well. And then you have defense cards. And basically the way attacks work is the attacker will play a face down card and a defender will play a face down card. You'll resolve any combat abilities on those cards. There's cards that happen immediately. There's cards that happen during combat like this one. And then there's cards that happen after combat. But essentially you're comparing these two numbers. And if the defense is equal to or higher than, then the defense is successful. And if the attack is higher than, then the defender takes damage. So here are our scheme cards. Those are one of the ones you can play on your turn. This one just lets you draw 2 cards and then lets you place a shadow token. Again, the basic rules of Unmatched are really simple. You just get this deck and then you start playing, and there's really only 3 things you can do on your turn, although you're taking 2 actions. So it's a really easy game to get into. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's been so popular, but also because all of these characters are balanced against the other characters, and they have quite a few sets out at this point, with more coming. So if you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you can play as Angel. You see Angel here. Angel has a sidekick of Faith. They're both melee as well. Their starting health, their movement, which is generally 2. It's kind of the average. After Angel or Faith attacks, if you lost the combat, you draw a card, and then the back is going to be that same cheat sheet. Your attack cards do specify who can use them. So for this attack card, only Angel can use this attack. If you're attacking with his sidekick, Faith, you'd either have to use a different card. For instance, you'd have to use this card, which specifically says Faith. There are some that say any, like this one, you can use with either Angel or Faith. But as I was saying, one of the really popular aspects of this game is that all of these different sets are balanced against each other. So if you really like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you want to play as Buffy, but maybe your opponent doesn't, they have a lot of different choices at this point. And there's a lot of choices coming as well. They have several different things planned. But so the first set was mostly mythological heroes. I think King Arthur and Medusa was in it. But they've had other sets that have included everything from Bigfoot to the Velociraptors from Jurassic Park. They just came out with a new one, Red Riding Hood and Beowulf. This is sort of the second newest expansion at the time of this recording, at least. Let's take a look at Willow. So Willow has a sidekick of Terra, and they are both ranged. Again, remember that ranged means that instead of attacking just adjacent, you can attack within a zone. So you can attack, if you're standing here, you can attack anybody that's in another red spot. Starting health, move, and their action special power is when Willow or Terra is dealt damage, Willow becomes Dark Willow. And at the end of your turn, if Dark Willow is adjacent to Terra, she becomes Willow. And most likely the cards will specifically say, for instance, this one only happens if she's in a particular state. So I don't know if this is Willow or Dark Willow state. I'm going to assume it's the Dark Willow state. And so that this bonus here will only go off if she's in this state. So you see that the icons match there. So aside from these sets and the ones they have out right now, they have a few more coming up. Apparently Restoration has made a deal with Marvel to put some of their maybe lesser known heroes into the game. So they've got 3 sets coming out or announced currently for Marvel heroes and villains. The first set includes Daredevil and Bullseye. And most likely somebody else. I think most of their sets are either 2 or 4, so it's probably another 2. They've got another set with, I know it has Ghost Rider in it. I don't know who else is in it, unfortunately. I just saw Ghost Rider and I got excited. So that's another Marvel set that they are working on. And then finally, we got Buffy here. Buffy's sidekick is either Giles or Xander. Both melee. She has a move of 3. And her power is Buffy can move through spaces containing opposing fighters, including when she is moved by effects. So the other 2 Marvel sets that they have currently announced One includes Black Widow and Black Panther and somebody else who I can't remember. And then the last one I saw has Squirrel Girl in it, which is the only thing I remember from it, unfortunately. They also have another Jurassic Park set coming out, which will include the T-Rex. So you can have the Velociraptor versus the T-Rex. But that's the cool thing about this game, is that you can include all these different characters from all these different worlds, and they're all balanced against each other. They're all competitive. But that's it. That's everything you get in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer expansion to Unmatched from Restoration Games.